Jupiter churns with massive storms, and Saturn proudly displays its brilliant rings. But Uranus floats in the deep cold, appearing as a peaceful, featureless pale blue sphere. That calm face is a terrifying cosmic lie. Reanalyzed data from the Voyager 2 probe and the Chandra X-ray Observatory exposes a horrifying reality. 4 billion years ago, a catastrophic collision violently knocked this giant world completely onto its side. Now, it rolls through the void like a frozen carcass. It plunges one hemisphere into 42 years of absolute pitch-black darkness, while its broken magnetic field literally rips its own atmosphere apart, bleeding plasma into deep space. What they saw next would change everything we thought we knew. To understand the true nature of this broken world, we must rewind the cosmic clock. According to highly detailed computer simulations and the latest astrophysical models, approximately 4 billion years ago, the young solar system was a violent and chaotic theater. During this extremely turbulent era, a massive protoplanet, estimated to be at least twice the size of Earth, composed entirely of dense rock and volatile ice, found itself on a direct collision course with the newly formed giant. The resulting impact was absolutely catastrophic, unleashing kinetic energy on a scale that completely defies human comprehension. Yet, miraculously, this cataclysmic event did not obliterate the planet. Instead, shattering the world into countless fragments, the glancing blow delivered enough raw force to completely reorient its entire rotational axis. While every other planet in our cosmic neighborhood spins relatively upright, resembling a spinning top gracefully dancing on the orbital plane, this celestial body was violently knocked onto its side. It acquired a staggering 98-degree axial tilt. As a direct physical consequence of this ancient cosmic trauma, the planet does not spin like its planetary siblings. It simply rolls along its orbital path through the vast emptiness of deep space, moving much like a brutally smashed ball, dragging its broken mass around the sun. This extreme physical deformity gave birth to a meteorological nightmare, dictating an environmental cycle unlike anything else observed in the known solar system. The planet takes exactly 84 Earth years to complete a single orbit around our star. Because it is literally tumbling on its side, the orbital geometry creates brutal, decades-long extremes. For 42 uninterrupted years, one geographic pole points directly at the distant sun. If you were to observe from that pole, you would experience a lifetime of continuous, unblinking daylight. There is absolutely no sunset, no twilight, and no relief. Only 42 consecutive years of being relentlessly bathed in cold, lifeless solar radiation. Meanwhile, the opposite hemisphere is subjected to a far more terrifying fate. As the planet crawls along its massive orbit, that side is plunged into the absolute abyss of an endless, suffocating winter. For 42 agonizing years, that half of the world receives absolutely no sunlight. It is permanently locked in a pitch-black night where the temperature plunges to mind-numbing extremes, freezing the outer layers into a toxic, swirling haze. Entire generations of human life could be born, grow old, and perish in this hemisphere without ever witnessing the dawn. No other planetary body in our entire solar system is forced to endure such a merciless, uncompromising sentence of time. But what no one expected was that the true horror wasn't happening on the surface. It was buried deep inside. Planetary physics dictates that giant worlds must possess immense internal heat. With a mass 14.5 times greater than our Earth, this giant was originally forged in a violently energetic gravitational collapse. By all established thermodynamic models, it should be continuously radiating massive amounts of primordial energy into the cold vacuum of space. Yet, when the Voyager 2 spacecraft flew past and directly analyzed the planet, the thermal data completely shattered our scientific expectations. The upper atmosphere drops to a staggering -224 degrees Celsius, solidly securing its title as the absolute coldest planetary environment in our entire solar system. It emits almost zero internal thermal energy. This creates a massive thermodynamic paradox. Two identical sibling planets, this world and Neptune, were born in the exact same cosmic neighborhood from the exact same stellar materials. But while Neptune fiercely radiates its internal thermal energy, driving supersonic windstorms, this world remains completely thermally silent. The heat did not simply vanish into the deep void. It is hiding in plain sight. To understand exactly where this massive heat reservoir went, we must look at groundbreaking experimental research recently conducted at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Researchers utilized extremely high-powered lasers to subject microscopic water droplets to violent shock waves, artificially recreating the crushing, incomprehensible pressure found deep inside the planet's mantle. Under these extreme conditions, extending to millions of times our standard atmospheric pressure, matter stops behaving according to traditional chemistry. The experiments conclusively proved the existence of a bizarre, exotic state called supercritical ice. In this extreme physical environment, oxygen atoms are violently compressed until they lock together, forming a rigid, solid crystalline lattice. Meanwhile, the hydrogen atoms are entirely stripped of their electrons, flowing freely through the solid oxygen framework like an electrically charged liquid current. The material is simultaneously a solid and a liquid, defying all basic human logic. This specific exotic material forms a massive, impenetrable thermal barrier deep within the planetary mantle. In a normal giant planet, internal heat travels outward to the surface through a process of fluid convection, literally boiling upward and driving fierce atmospheric storms. However, the rigid oxygen lattice of the supercritical ice layer acts as an enormous, unbreakable insulating wall, effectively choking off all thermal convection from the deep interior. The searing heat from the planet's violent birth, reaching thousands of degrees, was never lost to space. It is permanently trapped. This celestial body is not truly a cold planet. It is fundamentally built like a heavily insulated, inescapable prison. The outer atmosphere is freezing solely because the interior structure ruthlessly locks a raging primordial fire deep within its crushed core. Consider what it would be like to float in that freezing, silent upper atmosphere, fully aware that a suppressed, boiling inferno is trapped permanently just below the dark clouds. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Am I the only one who finds this internally smothered world silently terrifying? Descending beneath the freezing upper layers, any hypothetical journey downward would first violently plunge through thick, toxic atmospheric bands heavily saturated with hydrogen sulfide. If human senses could somehow operate in this hostile environment without being instantly crushed, the overwhelming, nauseating stench of rotting organic matter would completely dominate the entire descent. It is a foul, freezing hellscape that serves as a grim warning to any incoming visitor. But the toxic atmosphere is merely the outermost defensive layer. As an object sinks continuously deeper into the suffocating planetary darkness, the crushing physical forces multiply exponentially, completely stripping away everything we know about conventional physics. This environment sets the stage for a profound structural transformation that completely defies common terrestrial logic. Popular science media frequently describes the deep interior of this giant as a vast, churning liquid water ocean. This gentle description is a massive, fundamental misrepresentation of actual planetary physics. If a vehicle were to somehow survive the descent, it would not splash into a calming sea. Deep beneath the outer hydrogen and helium envelope, the ambient pressure reaches tens of millions of times the atmospheric pressure experienced on the surface of our homeworld. Under these ruthless, incomprehensible forces, the very boundary that separates a liquid from a gas is entirely obliterated. The volatile mix of water, ammonia, and methane is violently forced into a terrifying state of matter known as a supercritical fluid. There is no solid surface to crash into, and there is absolutely no liquid ocean to float upon. It is a bottomless, pitch-black, overwhelmingly dense medium that continuously churns and boils in the dark. This supercritical abyss is highly reactive and profoundly corrosive, possessing the relentless physical capability to systematically dissolve and completely tear apart almost any molecular structure that dares to enter its terrifying depths. Within this lightless, suffocating abyss, the extreme thermodynamic forces enact a disturbing chemical violence upon the abundant methane molecules circulating in the deep interior. The crushing pressure, reaching millions of atmospheres, acts like an invisible, inescapable vice that physically rips the carbon atoms away from their hydrogen bonds. Once isolated in the chaotic, extremely dense fluid, these raw carbon atoms are relentlessly squeezed together until they forcefully crystallize into massive, heavy geological formations. This brutal physical mechanism creates literal downpours of solid diamonds continuously plunging toward the planetary core. However, these are not the beautifully glittering, light-reflecting gemstones found in human jewelry. In the absolute, suffocating darkness of the supercritical mantle, there is absolutely zero light to reflect, and there is no life to witness their fall. These massive, jagged diamond formations violently tear their way down through the pitch-black, intensely dense fluid in a silent, continuous geological slaughter. They sink relentlessly through the toxic, opaque void, slowly accumulating over billions of years around the deep, hidden rocky core in a completely lightless realm of pure physical death. Every answer opens 3 more questions, but the most unsettling part is what this chaotic interior is doing to the space around it. Normally, a planetary magnetic field serves as a vital, elegant, protective shield, gracefully deflecting the relentless and destructive assault of deadly solar wind. Our own Earth desperately relies on this invisible, symmetrical armor to successfully sustain its delicate, life-giving atmosphere. However, the magnetic structure of this distant, dark ice giant is profoundly and irreversibly shattered. When the Voyager 2 spacecraft finally pierced the outer boundaries of the magnetosphere, terrified scientists quickly discovered an unprecedented geometric nightmare. Instead of naturally originating from the deep physical center of the world, the internal magnetic dipole is violently offset, displaced by a full 1/3 of the entire planetary radius. Furthermore, the magnetic axis is aggressively tilted at an extreme, unnatural angle of 59 degrees relative to the planet's already broken axis of rotation. Because the massive planet rolls along its lonely orbit entirely on its side, this completely asymmetrical magnetic field tumbles wildly and unpredictably through the vacuum of the solar system. It violently wobbles and twists into a massive, chaotic corkscrew pattern extending for millions of miles behind the planet, blindly thrashing around like a gigantic, uncontrollable drill tearing through the fabric of deep space. This severely mangled magnetic architecture absolutely does not protect the freezing planet. Instead, it actively and ruthlessly destroys it. In the year 2019, space physicists comprehensively reanalyzed the original, highly complex magnetometer data famously retrieved by the Voyager 2 probe decades prior. Their deep, meticulous investigation uncovered a truly catastrophic phenomenon. Because of the chaotic, tumbling rotational motion, the severely broken magnetic field continuously snags massive, heavy chunks of the planet's own upper atmosphere. The wildly fluctuating magnetic lines of force violently squeeze, compress, and roll these trapped atmospheric gases into colossal, highly charged plasma bubbles, scientifically known as plasmoids. These terrifying, electromagnetically bound cylinders of stolen atmospheric gas physically stretch for hundreds of thousands of kilometers across the dark void. Once fully formed, the planet's own erratic magnetic rotation ruthlessly hurls these massive plasmoids completely away, launching them out into the dark, frozen expanse of interstellar space. Every single day, this giant world is systematically bleeding its own vital life force, forcefully ripping away its own atmospheric skin and indiscriminately discarding it into the eternal cosmic darkness. The disturbing physical horror escalates even further when actively observing the surrounding high-energy radiation environment. Astronomers utilizing the incredibly powerful Chandra X-ray Observatory recently pointed their highly sensitive instruments toward this astronomically isolated, frozen world. To their utter disbelief, they successfully detected highly energetic, brilliant X-ray emissions violently exploding outward from the planet. Emitting such intense, glowing X-rays typically requires extreme thermal or highly energetic stellar activity, yet this specific planet is thermodynamically and clinically dead. Researchers currently hypothesize that the chaotic, twisting magnetic field interacts violently with the surrounding dark, rocky rings, forcefully accelerating charged particles to terrifying, relativistic velocities. This relentless, invisible bombardment transforms the immediate orbital space into a violently churning, wildly unpredictable radiation chamber. A completely frozen, thermally silent world is somehow continuously projecting deadly, high-energy radiation into the surrounding abyss. I gotta be honest with you. Seeing a planet actively tear its own atmosphere apart while emitting unexplained X-rays feels less like physics and more like a cosmic horror show. Moving beyond the deadly atmosphere and the chaotic magnetic field, the immediate orbital space surrounding this dark world offers no sanctuary. It presents a profoundly disturbing visual paradox. Unlike the magnificently bright, highly reflective icy rings that famously encircle Saturn, this planetary ring system is a completely sterile, hauntingly dark graveyard. The materials forming these rings are pitch black, possessing an incredibly low albedo that reflects less than 2% of any incoming sunlight. They are darker than processed coal. Even more unsettling is the complete, unnatural absence of microscopic particles. In a typical planetary ring system, fine dust is absolutely everywhere. Here, it is completely missing. Planetary scientists strongly theorize that an invisible, relentless physical mechanism has systematically swept all the fine dust entirely out of orbit. What remains is a desolate, barren ring composed exclusively of enormous, blackened boulders moving blindly through the absolute darkness, occasionally grinding and violently colliding against one another in complete, suffocating silence. This profound orbital violence is permanently etched into the fragmented surface of Miranda, the most bizarre and geographically tortured moon in the entire solar system. Miranda physically resembles a massive Frankenstein monster constructed purely of ice and rock. Scientific models suggest that during its early history, this unfortunate moon was completely shattered to pieces by a cataclysmic impact. Afterward, the raw, unyielding force of gravity painfully dragged the massive, jagged shards back together, clumsily fusing them into a chaotic, mismatched planetary body. The most terrifying physical manifestation of this violent rebirth is Verona Rupes, a staggering, near-vertical cliff face that violently plummets 20 kilometers deep. It confidently holds the undeniable title of the highest cliff known to humanity. If an astronaut were to somehow step off the very edge of this colossal precipice, the extremely weak microgravity would drastically alter the fundamental mechanics of a typical fall. You would not drop quickly. Instead, you would plunge into a slow, agonizing, completely silent freefall. For 12 grueling minutes, you would drift continuously downward through the cold, breathless void, helplessly staring at the pale blue sphere looming in the dark sky above, before finally making brutal contact with the rugged canyon floor. Yet, the astronomical violence in this specific system is not confined to ancient history. It is an active, ongoing tragedy playing out in the dark. Deep within the inner orbital paths, two small moons, Cupid and Belinda, are currently locked in an unstable, decaying gravitational dance. They are gradually moving closer to one another with every passing orbit. This entire lunar system is essentially a ticking cosmic time bomb, inevitably counting down to a catastrophic, mutually assured destruction. The planet is slowly, inevitably consuming its own children. The horrifying truth is, Uranus is not an outlier. It is a terrifying glimpse into what the universe really is. As we pull our perspective back from this decaying, pitch-black satellite system and expand our view to the massive galactic scale, a profound truth begins to crystallize. This dark ice giant seems to brutally violate every fundamental physical law humanity has ever established. It rolls blindly through the void, permanently traps its own primordial heat, and violently shreds its atmospheric shell in bottomless, supercritical abysses. Yet, This incredibly hostile world is not wrong. It is simply existing exactly as it was forged. The most earth-shattering revelation does not even reside within our own solar system, but rather in the endless ocean of stars beyond. Comprehensive astronomical data retrieved by the Kepler Space Telescope confirms a reality that completely rewrites our understanding of planetary physics. The most common exoplanets scattered throughout our entire galaxy are not rocky havens like Earth, nor are they majestic gas giants like Jupiter. The absolute dominant class of planets in the known universe is the ice giant, specifically the sub-Neptune category. Right now, across the Milky Way, billions upon billions of these bizarre worlds are silently rolling through the eternal darkness. They are systematically locking away their internal thermal energy behind impenetrable walls of superionic ice, generating severely fractured magnetic fields, and constantly erupting with unexplained, deadly X-ray radiation. For decades, humanity confidently assumed we understood the basic mechanics of planetary formation. However, the existence of this frozen, tumbling behemoth serves as a relentless, unforgiving reminder of our profound limitations. The universe isn't broken. Our map of it is just incomplete. These terrifying astronomical anomalies do not represent the sudden collapse of modern physics. Instead, they are brutal, necessary cosmic lessons teaching us exactly how incredibly narrow our human perspective truly is. The horrifying darkness of this extreme environment does not close the door on scientific discovery. It ignites a fierce, undeniable hope. It actively challenges us to build greater machines, to look further into the void, and to completely decode the terrifying beauty of the deep cosmos. What do you think? Does this terrifying dark world change how you see our place in the cosmos? Thank you so very much for watching. The universe is full of terrifying yet beautiful mysteries, and exploring them together makes this journey incredible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark cosmos, please subscribe and leave a comment below. I will keep exploring. See you all next time.